Publisher of the Cook Political Report, as well as an NBC News political analyst. Also in D.C. is Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union, along with Neera Tanden. She is the head of the Center for American Progress. Thank you all for being with us. Matt Schlapp, let me start with you because we showed the bottom line number there. Basically 3-1 opposition. We're seeing this in every poll against the family separation policy. I also note there's a new Gallup poll out today that shows Trump's approval ratings dropped a few points, I think 4 points in the last week, probably in response to all of this. How much damage was done here to the president and to the Republican Party with this family separation policy?
Look, I think it was a rough week. We're good and tolerant people in this country, and we hated the idea of families being separated. Of course, that wasn't a new policy because that was a policy that we've had on the books for a couple of decades. The new policy that Trump initiated was this zero tolerance policy where everybody who comes and crosses illegally will go through the prosecution system if they're not a political asylee. So, and if you look at the numbers you just went through, that's wildly popular with the American people. The combination of either sending people back to their homeland if they're not coming to America legally or prosecuting them, you're getting near 60% of the American people say that's the right thing to do. But I'm glad we're compassionate and good people, and they think we should do it in a humanitarian way.
Well, I guess, Neera, I'll ask you about the second part of those numbers then, because when you get away from the family separation policy and you do ask about those, okay, so you don't want the family separated, what do you want to happen? When you see those numbers, does that surprise you? And do you think that the Democrats who've been critical of the Trump administration here, do you think they're reflecting the attitudes that you're seeing in those numbers there?
I think the truth is that we are in a time and a discussion that really trumps politics. And, we continue to have stories. The first half of your show continues to be about the fact that there are children who still don't know where their parents are. They're spread across the country. Until every child is reunited with their parent, I think with his or her parent, we're going to see a continuing discussion of this issue. There's a variety of polls that show a lot of different things. This poll showed concerns going one way. There are other polls that show that it's much more spread across a multiple of different answers on immigration. I think at the bottom of this whole issue is that Matt is actually wrong. Donald Trump created a policy, the zero tolerance policy, but as a result of that zero tolerance policy, he himself decided, and Jeff Sessions said this, and John Kelly said it at a different time, to separate children from their parents. And that is what the American people have risen up in horror at. And we can all discuss the politics of this. I think this is actually a motivating issue now to Democrats who are angry at what's happening in their name and in the country's name about children and parents. But I think at the end of the day, we are not going to end this conversation until every child is reunited with his or her parent.
Yeah, well, Charlie, let me get you to weigh in on that. Is that the bottom line, that just the specific issue of the family separations, of the kids and parents being separated, that overwhelms this completely, and that the underlying numbers we're showing maybe don't have as much political impact, or are we missing something maybe?
Well, what strikes me is this is an unforced error. That right now, I mean, if I worked in the Trump White House, what I would be saying is we ought to be keeping the focus on the economy improving. If they want to talk about the tax cuts having benefited the economy, I'd be talking about getting North Korea to the table that previous administrations were not able to do. That's what I'd be talking about. The fact that we're having this whole controversy right now, this has been brought on by the Trump White House, and they're stepping on their own message. But you look at, I like to look at the Gallup poll, same methodology every week, and the fact that the president's approval rating dropped from 45 to 41% a week, and 3 points among Republicans and 5 points among Democrats and independents, that's a lot of movement in just 1 week. And if I'm not sure I could explain other than just doubling down on policies that are really popular within the Republican base but are radioactive outside of the base. I'm not sure why they do this.
I do want to get in the other item that folks on left and right seem to be talking about today, and it seems to be escalating. It happens through Twitter as it does these days. You had that incident over the weekend with Sarah Huckabee Sanders at that restaurant in Virginia. He had had Maxine Waters, the Democratic congresswoman from California, I think it was yesterday at a rally saying, make life miserable, basically, for folks in the administration, folks who support the administration. And the president himself, let's put this up, this is about an hour ago, the president then going after Maxine Waters in some very blunt terms. I think we have this. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, an extraordinarily low IQ person, has become together with Nancy Pelosi, the face of the Democrat Party. She has just called for harm to supporters, of which there are many, of the Make America Great Again movement. Be careful what you wish for, Max. Matt Schlapp, let me just start with you, because
sure.
Look, I mean, over the weekend, I mean, maybe you could certainly make a case there that Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it raises questions, is the right approach for that restaurant? Is that the right approach for this country? But is the president just making it worse, jumping in like this?
You know, absolutely not. I mean, look, my wife obviously works alongside Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and at the same time she had that unfortunate incident, you get plenty of other incidents. We were out to dinner, and I had a vice president of a bank come up to me and encourage us for the work that we're doing. I think the problem is this. Sometimes when I go through airports or other places, I'll have Democrats and liberals stop me, and we'll have very interesting conversations. I think most people in this country are respectful. They respect differences. They can have the dialogue. You're nice enough to put me on your show, even though most of your audience would probably gag when they see me. But this is the fact, is we have to do more of this, because we have to figure out a way to disagree politically and still be civil. And I don't have any problem with the president defending his staffers. This is unprecedented in presidential politics. Probably haven't seen this since the Vietnam War. And I think most Americans will treat people they disagree with politically with decency.
Well, Neera, let me give you a chance to weigh in. We got about 30 seconds here, but what's your reaction to all of this?
You know what I think is not treating people with decency? I think it is talking about a United States senator who doesn't vote the way you like him. He's a member of your party, John McCain, and then joking about how he may die. That is not civility.
How about calling out Maxine Waters? Call her out.
I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to say everyone should be more civil. Hey, but why don't you speak about the civility in the White House when you attack members, or people in the White House attack members of their own party as a joke about their death? I think the Trump administration lecturing anyone, Trump administration and their allies lecturing anyone on civility is ridiculous.
So that means anything goes.
No, I'm saying let's all, you know what? Let's talk about something that actually matters in people's lives, which is these kids and their parents, and talk less about the treatment of Sarah Huckabee Sanders and more about the children who are dealing with this. But I really can't take lectures from you, Max, about civility when you have not said one word about the attacks on John McCain.
I just did.
You
I
didn't.
think we
You
should
just
all
said,
treat
how about
people.
Max?
That's untrue. I said right on national TV the next morning that it was wrong when John McCain is fighting cancer
Okay, well,
to
now
talk
you
about
know
his
how
health.
everybody
And
feels.
I went on The View and said the same
now you know how everybody
thing.
feels.
Well, how about we do this? How about we just...
Donald Trump, let me just say, Max, Donald Trump never said one word about the attacks on John McCain, and he still hasn't. And over the weekend, he still attacked him. But you know what? We should be better. You're right. You're right. We should be better than the President of the United States and actually try and treat each other civilly. I agree with you.
Charlie Cook, I want to get you to weigh in here at the risk of throwing you in the middle of this, but I wonder just... It is it's a cliche. It's such an unusual time. This is not what it was like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. In modern history, the level of polarization we see right now, how do you look at it? How do you diagnose it?
I just left a luncheon of former members of Congress of both parties, and you know, you just get a sense talking to these folks that you know, we thought things were acrimonious in the 90s. We thought they were acrimonious in the 80s and 70s and 60s. But this exceeds anything we've ever seen. And the thing is, there's a lot of guilt on both sides. And this is like trying to figure out who threw the first punch in a bar fight. There's been a lot of sins committed on both sides. And you know, I really wish people would sort of stand down a little bit. But in my mind, I think we are more politically divided today than we've been since Reconstruction. And this was started, I think this is 25, 30, 35 years coming, that President Trump didn't start it. He may have accelerated it. He sure didn't start it, and I just not sure what could turn the process around, because we're headed to a bad place.
Right. I think a lot of people are seeing that potential and wondering the same thing. Is there some way to get off that course?